Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Beauty Authority. Today, we're talking about hair loss and what's actually happening right now and what's coming up next. I'm joined by New York dermatologist, Dr. David Goldberg of Schweiger Dermatology Group. Hi, Dr. Goldberg. How are you?
Good morning, Tatiana. I'm great.
Thank you for joining New Beauty today. This is such a hot topic. Hair loss is always on everyone's mind, especially right now with a lot of people experiencing thinning and hair loss, especially with GLP-1. So, what is happening with hair restoration? It feels like it's entering a new era. What's happening right now from your perspective?
So, two things. I mean, one, as you alluded to, Tatiana, we're seeing somewhat of a change in who comes in for hair thinning and hair loss. And two, we're on the cusp of an explosion in new, really high quality treatments. So, the changes that have occurred are, if we look at 30 years ago, probably 70% of our patients coming in were guys, usually pretty young with hair thinning, and they were concerned about it. And we didn't see a lot of women 30 years ago. Now the demographics have really changed. Almost probably 60, 70% of people we now see in the office are women. Guys tend to come in at a younger age, because they're insecure about losing hair in their 20s and 30s. And by the time they get to be in their 50s, they get to be like me, they get a buzz cut. We all think it looks sexy because Yul Brynner did it. And then guys don't really care at that point. Women are a totally different group. Women don't generally come in their 20s. They usually come in somewhere around premenopausal, perimenopausal, as their hair begins to thin. So you're dealing with a totally different group who are generally 40 to 50 in that age group. And they're devastated. I mean, there is no alternative for them. There is this alternative for men. And we've had treatments for really decades already, none of which work all that great. Nothing has been FDA approved for 20 years. And as I said, we're onto some really new hot items.
Yeah, and you and I were talking before, and you are currently working on clinical trials for a new time release version of oral minoxidil. How is it different than what we already have?
So I guess to talk about oral minoxidil, let's go to what we currently do when people come in. So many people come in and they've already used topical minoxidil, which is called Rogaine. It's not even prescription. They get it in the drugstore. And although it was FDA approved, it's got to be 40 years ago. It doesn't do much. And most people don't think it does anything for them. They also feel that sometimes it's drying on their scalp. And so they come to us and they want to do something else. So there are oral nutraceuticals, they're like vitamins. They can be taken, they don't do a lot. But usually what we end up doing is one of the following. We end up doing something known as PRP, or platelet-rich plasma, where we actually draw their blood and then we re-inject it back into their scalp. It's a procedure. I mean, they have to have their blood drawn. They can get black and blue from that. We inject it into the scalp, and to be honest with you, women don't think it's all that big a deal having it injected into their scalps. And you know the deal. Men are impossible. They all find it way too painful, and they often don't want to do it. But that's what we do. And then in terms of the prescription type items that they do at home, for men, we often use something known as finasteride. It's known as Propecia. It definitely does help. It blocks the effect of testosterone on hair follicles. They do grow hair. The problem is about 10% of men complain of erectile dysfunction from it. That's a concern. We don't generally use that medication in women. And that leads us to what you asked about, and that's oral minoxidil.
Yeah.
So oral minoxidil has been around for a long time. The current formulation was not made for hair growth. It was made for blood pressure. And it works pretty well for blood pressure. The problem is the way the dosage is given, there is a peak very quickly that drops off very quickly. And so because of that high peak, which is what you want for blood pressure, some guys and some women complain of dizziness or just not feeling right because of that drop in their blood pressure. And so that's been a concern about that. But even without that concern, because of this peak and then dropping off, the hair follicle doesn't get exposed to the medication long enough. And minoxidil works by really dilating blood vessels. It creates a healthy environment around the hair, which allows hair to grow. And if you get that drop off, so it's not being exposed to that, then we know, it's not going to work as well. And that's the problem with current oral minoxidil, not FDA approved for hair, Not ideally made for hair, but it's what we use.
So the extended release is really important because it's allowing it to be more effective for longer?
So Veradermics is the company. They've
Very
already
dermis.
finished, FDA studies have various phases. They finished phase one, they finished phase two. Currently, we're involved in phase three trials, which are the final trials before they hopefully get FDA clearance. And as you stated, we actually use a higher dosage than is currently used for the blood pressure medication, but it's delivered over an extended period of time. So we never get that high peak. So the blood pressure issues seem not to be an issue, and yet it stays there for a longer period of time. Think of it as just creating a healthy nutrition for the hair. And that's why it works better. And in published data so far on the phase two trial, this works almost 3 times as well as any other product we have on the market currently.
And does it work as well for men and women the same?
So in phase two, both men and women are treated. In phase three, both men and women are treated. Obviously, we don't have the final results for the phase three trials yet, but it seems to work as well both in men and women, yes.
Is this treatment available yet or is it coming soon?
Not available yet. It's still in trial. Some of that's up to the FDA. The company has not made it clear when it's going to come on the market. And I don't think they know. Certainly, it's not going to be in 2026. Maybe we can hope for 2008.
We also know there are some hair regrowth innovations coming that are powered or featuring AI. What can you tell me about that?
This, Tatiana, is really cool stuff. You start hearing about AI, and we all know about it. This company's coming out, and we get scared. We don't understand. And so there is a company known as ABSCI, ABSCI, that is an artificial intelligence company. And through artificial intelligence, they have developed an antibody or a blocker for the prolactin receptor on hair follicles. Now, what's fascinating about this is, prolactin for all of my career, to me, was the hormone that allowed women to lactate, to breastfeed. I never knew it did anything else. It turns out hair follicles have a ton of prolactin receptors. We don't know why, but they are there. And so they've developed this blocker for that receptor. And so far in rodents, in macaque monkeys, and we've all seen the social video of that macaque monkey in
Yes.
Japan now, it's become very popular. So macaque
Punch.
monkeys, that's right,
Yes.
punch. Macaque monkeys lose hair just like humans do, very similarly. So far in rodents and macaque monkeys, this thing really works. The first phase trials have begun in Australia in humans, and that's going on, and probably will be very similar to the monkeys. They've already done studies looking for side effects. There is virtually nothing that's been seen outside of the fact that you cannot give it to women who want to breastfeed because it won't let them breastfeed, and even that wears off in a couple of months. But that study has begun in Australia, and you have to look at that very differently than the Veradermics oral minoxidil study. They're really not competing. In fact, these are two companies that wish each other well, because the APSI antibody to the prolactin receptor, it works by changing hairs from the resting stage into the growing stage, right at the hair follicle. Minoxidil just creates a safe, natural, healthy environment. So they really can be used together. Now they're also going to be taken differently. Oral minoxidil is taken by mouth. The APSI prolactin product is going to be a shot just like the um, GLP-1 injections. The difference, though, is GLP-1 injections generally are taken once a week. These injections, it looks like, will be taken maybe 3, 4 times over the course of a couple of months. And then once you convert a baby hair into a terminal growing hair, it stays that way for a year. So once you've taken that initial dosage, you may not have to take shots again for another year.
Wow. So realistically, when will these treatments become available for us?
So I'm guessing because I don't know. I'm hoping the Dermix oral minoxidil product will get to market 2027, and then follow at some point after that by the Absite product. And so that's why I say it's not going to happen in a year, but over the next 5 years, the hair growth industry is going to be transformed. And
It's
and you alluded to
fascinating.
the fact that some people also lose hair now that they're on GLP-1 drugs. The estimates for that are 1 in 8 or 12% of Americans are on those drugs now. That probably is grossly understated. It's probably much higher than that. And as that goes on with time, they also lose hair. They'll also be treated with these products.
Well, we can't wait, right? Because this is a huge concern for so many people. And, people try so many different things. And a lot of times it's a combination approach, like you said. So it's exciting to hear that we have new treatments on the horizon on the preventative side and also on the hair regrowth side. And if someone is dealing with hair loss right now while we're waiting for these innovations, what are you recommending for your patients?
So besides all the things that I just mentioned, the one other thing that is relatively new that we are currently using is that there are quality exosomes. These are little packets of information that really occur in a bottle that can be applied to the scalp that also grow hair. And we at Schweiger have a research program. We did a study last year looking at one of these products. Some of them are human derived, some of them are vegetable derived, and so you have to look for quality exosomes, but they also grow hair. And so as I see the future, I think this platelet-rich plasma, which works somewhat but involves injections, probably going to wane. Certainly the current oral minoxidil, I think will disappear. We're going to end up treating people with a newer version, better version of oral minoxidil, with the Abside product and topical exosomes. That is the future.
Very exciting stuff. Thank you so much, Dr. Goldberg, for sharing all of your insights with us. And I would love to just spend a day with you finding out all of these insights with all of your clinical studies. It's really fascinating. So thank
Well,
you for doing this.
as you know, aesthetic dermatology just keeps changing. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just every year there's something new. So yeah,
Yeah.
this is a
And
lot of fun.
everything gets better and better. So it's super exciting. Thank you for bringing this to New Beauty and thanks so much.
My pleasure.